You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
My mama done told me to bring a rabbit for dinner.
For dinner? For dinner? What you having?
Rabbit.
A rabbit stew.
That boy's about as sharp as a bowling ball. Round, that is.
Hey, Jeeples. Welcome to another episode of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott, or in this case, I'm not sure where we are.
An undisclosed location.
Lost in the mist. Anyway, I'm Kevin, the engineer, the general Jeep tech guy, the one who has the manuals, has the tools, reads the instructions, and most of the time I follow them.
And I'm Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy that sits here with the zip ties going, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this, huh? You need this yet? No.
Yeah. And let's be honest, there's one other thing that Scott does, and this one drives me crazy. Sorry to break off. Mm-hmm. And that is, I'm doing something. And Scott's over there like the shake and bake girl, and I helped.
Yeah, pretty much.
As soon as I set a tool down,
I put it away.
He does. He's gotten better. But and I'm reaching back to the toolbox. Where's the ratchet? Oh,
I put it back. Yeah. So while we will sure it worked for us, like putting wrenches back, and
or what didn't
when
like
he's trying
Scott
to find it. It's really up to you to do what you do with your Jeep.
You got to choose what you want to do with your Jeep. So as we always say, do your research.
Read the instructions.
And of course, please follow them.
Yeah.
Unless you know what you're doing and are definitely flying off course and voiding all factory warranties.
Or yet to install it and the warranty's already voided, but we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that in a little bit, little tie in there. So,
welcome to show 135.
Show 135. And we got to start off right from the beginning. Yes, with a congratulations to Mark, the owner, operator, mechanic, billing
department,
phone answer, the whole thing for
videographer,
the Jeep Lab.
Yes.
Mark just had his 4-year anniversary, which is awesome for a small business and incredible for a one-man small business. Yes. So, Mark, our heartfelt congratulations on success. Well deserved, and keep up the good work.
Yeah.
And plus, it's been fun doing a little collaborative video work with him. With a repetitive, if you folks know, there's this same red Jeep is in the background of each one of the stories we're telling. And I may talk about that a little bit later, because it is the classic example of a Jeep with so many problems and so many issues that we are having a hard time even getting to find the basic problem. But that's the story for later.
Yes.
Scott, you had some things you wanted to chime in about.
I had a lot of stuff, actually.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't really know. I forgot now. You kind of threw me for a loop. We talked about so much before the show.
You've been gone first off. You've been up visiting family.
I took some family and did stuff like that.
He was being an adult, which is a little hard. But
yes, it was very hard. But the biggest thing coming up here soon is, are you talking about like my plans on the March 7th kind of situation?
Well, what I was asking about was your plans for what you were planning to talk about, and you just told me, I'm going to cover this, this, and this.
Oh yeah, well, hey, see, it's been like I blinked. So
I was going to say it's been at least 5 minutes.
But the biggest thing for me, you have no idea.
Or are we in the goldfish?
It's
blurp.
I went around the bowl once and I forgot what I was doing. The goldfish is more
apropos.
Yeah, more apropos. Yeah. So basically, hopefully, I don't go too far off subject because I can't remember what I was going to tell. So I'll just go with this one because it's top on the mind. On the top of the mind, yeah. But anyways, I am going to. I won't be as much the Jeep parts guy or the parts guy as much anymore. I am stepping away from that role for a little bit to do some. I'm going to concentrate on more of the audio and video aspect of it. We're going to do a lot of really cool stuff, and I'm going to take some time to find myself. And yes,
You're in the chair right here.
I know. I'm going to enable GPS and find my iPhone so that Kevin can find me when needed. But no, I decided that for personal reasons I'm going to take a sabbatical from work and really concentrate more on the audio podcast, find myself, do some traveling and some things that really need to be done. And so that's a little diatribe from the side there, if you will. So I'm going to step up our social media presence, and I'm going to be out there to a lot more local Jeep events. The idea is that this is my passion. This is something I love doing with Kevin. And I'm going to really pay attention to it over the next few months because, you, the listeners, a lot of you have reached out to me and had want to make sure I'm okay. Ed. Well, actually, I think Ed's the one that talked to me and has been asking me a lot of questions. He was also there at the event.
Well, I pulled it back up so that I would remember to give a shout out. Rolling backwards is our usual case. We take 20 steps forward, jump back 15. Yes. Ed Martin, thank you very much for coming out and chatting with me. It was a lot of fun. Ed is one of our Patreons, and he came out to Mark's event. He is local to us, and we spent quite a bit of time talking with him and the... I'll be honest, I've never quite had such a circle of people around me wanting to chit-chat, and he asked a lot of questions about different things. And of course, once you get me started on technical stuff, I'm hard to stop, kind of like a train air conditioner.
Well, I got to give Ed actually is one of the ones that have been reaching out to me almost weekly since all this went down. And I want to tell congratulations because one of the things I forgot to tell Kevin about, because that's how good I am at life at the moment. Congratulations, Ed, on his new LJ with a hard top. Congratulations. Thank you for coming to the dark side. We have cookies and cheesecake bites. So, no, we don't, but that's besides the point. But congratulations on
knowing you, Scott, if they were, they'd be out of date.
I got nothing for that because I'm right. I know you're right. So circle backing around. No, folks, my lift is still not installed.
It is
and,
not. It's still
and we'll get to the subject here later, but I also bought more parts.
He did. And this is sad that, and
the bed rugs in the shed too.
And I got to reach out and just say, Mattson, Will, I know the warranty on Scott's lift is expired, but it's still in the box in his storage unit. We will, I promise. If I have to dynamite the lock, we're going to steal his LJ.
No, not after March 1st, because March 1st, it's exactly one calendar year. It's set inside that
that's just a couple of weeks away.
That was just on principle. I joke with Kevin saying, hey, by the way, I bought the lift for the Gladiator. He's like, what? Yeah, we're installed it next week. Is what? And I'm like, yeah, come on. That'd be kind of funny. I buy the lift for the Gladiator and get that installed before the LJ over there is slowly crying, going, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, no. But go ahead. You teased them. You bought more parts.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't install them, mind you, but he bought more parts.
I installed the bed rug into the shed.
That's not installed.
It's in something. But yeah, no, I got the bed rug. I talked about that. But my, I've had a lot of stuff happen.
We talked to this a year ago, how we did a temporary repair to a certain portion of Scott's
the BSUs, the butt support units, and
the repair let go rather unceremoniously.
On the way home, I jumped in, snap. Oh, you kidding me? It's not even Taco Tuesday, man. Come on.
So he did break down finally and invest in a little bit of comfort.
Yes, and what was the funny thing is they're supposed to take 9 to 8 weeks, and they came within 3. And I'm like, wow, they're here already? Cool.
So tell them what they are.
I got myself a set of Mastercraft RS Baja racing suspension seats.
Yep.
And the reason why I chose those is because they're part of the FMFFVX2, the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety.
They meet or exceed
standard.
The standards that manufacturers have to build into every seat.
Yes.
And they are also sold as a racing seat.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the 5-point openings, if you hook up 5-point harnesses. And for those of us of slightly larger girth, we fit in those, whereas some of the other brands that are still good seats, but they're made for people with skinnier butts.
Yeah. Well, and I ping pong back and forth because I bought a set of Smitty belts for the YJ, the non-reclining ones, and they didn't look that bad, and they were nice seats. But then I really started thinking about it. I mean, I was dead set on spending the money for another set of Smitty belt seats or some best top ones. I looked at all the seats and went back and forth and spending. And the thing that kind of scared me, and this is just me being real, is that you get what you pay for.
You do.
And riding in slightly altered with the metal cloak suspension and those suspension seats really just,
which by the way, folks, are 8 years old now.
Yeah, they saved my butt literally and my back because I've had a few oopsies and most of my back's broken. But yeah, that too. But honestly, what sold me is the ride quality in those seats, and also too, okay, yeah, I did pay a premium price for them, but at the same time,
you paid a heck of a lot less than I did.
Well, but I also looked at the fact that going with another brand of seats, there's corners cut with foam, there's corner cuts with supports and everything else. And
fabrics wear out.
I just wanted to do it once, and your seats have worn so nicely for the 8 years, and I'm like, you know what, it's like when you start thinking about parts for your Jeep. We talk about, getting cheap tires.
Yep.
Yeah, you might be able to get a cheap set of tires from eBay. I'm just using them as an example. And I see people at work do it all the time. They buy the cheap tires. And next thing you know, 10,000 miles later, they're 50% tread. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I spent a lot more for my tires, but I'm at 40,000 or 30,000 on the LJ already. And the tires still are in very good condition. Lots of good meat. Wearing very nicely. And I'm like, you know what? These are the seats that I'm going to want. They will protect me. That safety standard is a really big thing for me because I got rear-ended once already and the seat broke. Yeah. It was an old seat. So I wanted to make sure that, if I decide...
it was not that old of a seat the way he put it. It was the factory seat in the Challenger. Yeah, that broke. So
yeah, so the idea is I really wanted to spin the quality because you only get one back, you only get one butt, know. And I'm like, I'm going to do it the right way, and that's what worked for me. I did the research. I mean, it took me 6 months to pull the trigger on these seats because I painstakingly looked at what worked for me, and that's what worked for me. So that's why I went with what I went. If you feel free, on the trail podcast at gmail.com, if you'd like to say, hey, I'm wrong, that's fine. I'll take it. But the point is that they're a quality seat. And I just had to do it. I spent the money, swiped the card, whatever the case would be you want to say. But now I got to get those things installed. So it's going to be bed rug and then seats on a weekend. And then maybe the lift. I don't know.
Well, I'll forgive you on that because the bed rug goes in with no tools. Yeah. The seats are 8 bolts and 1 cable wire on each side for the tilt function. And yeah, we can probably do those before we start opening the boxes for the lift.
Yeah.
So,
well, we do need to drill and secure the box back there too, because I want to make.
Oh, you didn't say that. You said seats and bed rug.
I'm also going to redo the audio, and I'm going to do this kind of stuff. And
we've met Ida No, not me. Now we're going to meet.
Let me add a.
She's a lovely young thing.
Well, that could go one of two ways. Let me add to something, or let me add it, please, so I can finish it. They kind of go hand in hand. Like, let me add it so I can add a something, so I can finish it.
Whatever.
Something like that. I don't know. But again, I want to spend some time on the LJ. And the cool thing is when I get these seats, the bed rug, and a couple of things done, with the exception of finishing the wrap, the LJ is done. Time to go wheeling and have fun. I thought about, more fenders and other things, and I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm going to enjoy the Jeep.
And speaking of having fun, what is coming up?
Oh, lots of things are coming up. The Florida Trail Team Challenge, for one.
Yep.
And Jeep Beach, which is going to be really cool this year because Kevin and I have something in place and in plan we're working on diligently.
Yeah, we are. And it will be something for you, the listeners, not for us.
Yes.
That is if you're going to Jeep Beach. So if you're not, I'm sorry. But if you are, stay tuned.
Or if you're not, send a relative for the day to
How
spectate.
relative do they have to be?
I don't know. It might be worth it to send them. I don't know. I'm working on it. And before everyone goes, is this going to be another lift in the storage unit scenario? No, Kevin has decreed this is not to happen because the last thing we ever want to be is the Broken Promise podcast. Okay.
No. We have a gift for those of you who want to come and find us.
Yes,
and we're actually going to make it easy to find us. We have some friends helping us out with this as well. So we'll let you know. And no, it's not anything of intrinsic great value, but it is going to be produced
Limited qualities.
this time in limited quantities. He keeps saying quality, and then I copy him.
In my defense, I just learned to speak 3 hours ago. So, I mean, let's be honest.
Okay. So anyway, isn't it about your break time?
Is it my break time?
I don't know. No, not quite yet.
No, not quite yet. We still got a few more minutes. But as far as everything else goes, the Gunner the Trail Dog is doing good.
Gunner's had a lot of travel and had what this last time, a bout of doggy anxiety.
Well, actually, when I went to the beginning of the year, he did have the doggy anxiety, which was a $700 vet bill. Ow.
Yeah, and then cleaning out the inside of the Gladiator.
Oh, look, something shiny over there, Kevin Quick. But this last time, I followed the doctor's instructions, and Gunner was slow blinking, one eye each time, going, Dad, can we stop and get some donuts? He gave me the slow blink, like, I'm okay, Dad. I had to almost lift him into the Gladiator once. He's like, I got it, Dad. I'll be okay.
I wish you guys could see the facial expressions as he's making these voiceovers.
It's so funny, too. You got this 70-pound flooper just looking at you going, yep, I'm good.
Oh.
In our defense, guys, it is almost 10 o'clock when we're recording this. It is 10 o'clock
It's
when we're recording
10:05
this.
to be honest, but yes.
But no, again, things are going good. And the biggest thing that Kevin and I were talking a little bit about this is that, I went to school for audio and all this, and I wanted, again, more social media presence and videos. We are currently working on a new platform for the videos. Mm-hmm. So if you would like to become a Patreon, we are going to do the Patreon videos here. Patrons will get... as time allows, the shows should be up a little early, but for Patreons only. Now, this is an asterisk with this because, we're going to get busier in some aspects. So, because we're winding down the time for Kevin to have the new palatial estates, hopefully.
It's a farmhouse with a barn, but it'll be my barn.
Yes, well, palatial estates because it's what you want. It's your dream home.
Yeah, we'll see if I can just get the power company to run power.
I never
right
said
now,
it was
I've got
important.
A gorgeous house that has no electricity in it.
Hey, it's farmhouse. You could really get in there with the candles.
Yeah, I could.
Little house on the prairie style.
But we haven't closed on it yet. So,
have you ever watched a DVD by candlelight? No matter how fast you spin that DVD in your finger over a candle, you still can't see the picture really well.
But you get a pretty good mirror flashy show, like the 70s disco.
Staying alive. Great night on Andy Gibbs' estate, $5.
Oh,
I think we've burned enough time for a break. What do you think?
Whatever you want, sir.
All right, we're gonna attempt to get this out in the vocal language. So we're gonna go ahead and cut, and we'll be right back after this quick message from something. Hey folks, it's still time if you want to join the Patreon page. Also check out the 4x4 Radio Network and also check out our YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Lots of really cool stuff to find there. And if you also get some cross-pollination with the Jeep Lab. And again, a big thank you to all of our corporate Patreons and everyone else out there. So with that, we're going to tippy-tire into the garage so that Kevin can talk about some really cool stuff.
Well, as I teased you guys earlier, I've been working with Mark at the Jeep Lab, attempting, rather, to help him solve a problem.
Yes.
And we had I can't remember if it's a 3 or 4, but it's one of those two.
Yeah.
That was brought in for a running rough at higher RPMs, even to stalling. And it was one that and this was pushing Mark's experience level. So he just wanted somebody to come in, and he had already done some work, but he's like, I'm not getting anywhere. Would you come on over and take a look?
Right.
Absolutely. I enjoy helping folks when they're kind of caught in that situation. So I go over and tell me what it is. And he says, well, it's been in, I'm not sure, 3 or 4 shops.
That'd be a handful of shops.
It's not gotten any better. Somebody put a new computer in it. Mm-hmm. It's got an error code that won't go away. Help.
Yeah.
And so I set up a plan, and unfortunately at the time I'd come over, I thought it was just going to be advice. And I said, well, I've got this and this and this and this book, but we can cut back and let's make a date. So he goes in and we schedule a day, come on over, and I bring my gear. And the first thing we do is, all right, like everybody else does, let me pull a scan on the computer, and it's telling P0202, which says a circuit issue on number 2 fuel injector.
Right.
Okay. Start it up. It hard starts, but it starts. And put your finger on it, and number 2 is clicking away happily.
Right.
Let me get my Noid lights out. And for those who know, Noid lights are little tiny LED light bulbs that have connectors on the back that match various manufacturers' injectors. And you plug it in, and you start it up. And 2 things should happen. One, the engine should run even worse because you've actually disconnected an injector.
Right.
And you should be able to see every fire pulse at idle. Now, when you rev the engine, it should go to steady state. And I see everything at idle, and I rev it till it starts to break up. And I'm looking, okay, is the light going to break up? Nope. Light's going perfectly smooth. I'm going, wait a minute, the computer's telling me this one is bad. There's nothing bad. Okay. But just to be sure, because you don't know when that code was set, how it was set, what triggered it, read through it. Supposedly, okay, the circuit to the computer, it's a fully powered circuit to each injector, and the computer gets the ground line, and that's how it triggers it. You know, it shunts to ground to fire the circuit and opens it to not. And I was like, okay, well, and this code is set anytime there's a problem with the circuit. And you can still fire with a problem. It could be a short to ground, or a intermittent problem with the power or something like that. So I take a deep breath and I look at Mark, and I said, well, I'm going to open the harness. And so I opened the harness. All 6 of them, all the way back to the computer, disconnected the computer, checked every single wire run, checked the joints, checked for shorts, checked for grounds, checked for problems in the power side. Everything in perfect condition. In fact, I haven't seen a TJ with the wiring harness is in good a shape. Most of them, the rail that goes across the head, they're all fused together in one multicolored spaghetti lump.
Right, yeah.
And so, all right. But we clear the code cautiously, start it up, card's right back. How's the code back? So we unplug 2, and it runs like crap. I mean, even worse than it was.
Right.
So I start moving injectors around, and Mark looks at me and says, yeah, I've already replaced all the injectors. Okay, so much for that, but that's life. You can't always control what's going in.
Right.
So we think, okay, maybe that's an odd code.
Right.
This is a replacement computer. So I go over and we check the ignition side. We even go and buy another coil bar.
Right.
Put it on there. Same problem. Take it off. The shop took it back because the part shop said, normally don't take back electrical, but this was a diagnostic. We're going to look the other way. They were nice about it. So there's nothing wrong. Check all the pulses. Check all the fires. Nothing. Fuel, air, and fire. Well, I got fire. I'm spraying fuel, but that doesn't mean I got enough. So the next thing you typically check, fuel flow and pressure.
Right.
Well, you don't have Schrader valves on those TJs. I may have mentioned that in one of the other shows.
Yeah, you do. How you did the pump.
So we had to replace the pump, which we talked about before. Folks, what you don't realize is when I talk about it, these are all the same Jeep. These are individual steps as we're going through this. As I said before, the pump failed miserably. It was bad. There's no question about it. And when you revved it up, the fuel pressure fell all the way down to 5 PSI.
Right.
We replaced it. Now I have 47 PSI. Didn't fix the problem. Still breaking up.
Right.
Still stalling. So I said, okay, let's break it down a little bit further. And I know a lot of you are shouting, and I'll get to this in a minute about what the next step is. But let me take a break and let's see if we can find out what the problem with the stalling is. When you let it off, when you let throttle down, it just blah, blah, blah. But if you really butterfly it down, gently let it rev down, it'll idle. So I let it slam shut, and it's heading to go blah, 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 popped off the vacuum hose to the brake booster, put my thumbnail over the vent slightly, and I could bring it to 600 RPM, right dead idle. All right. What does that tell me? I got no idle air control.
Right.
It's stuck at low idle position, but it's not opening when the engine's trying to stall or closing if it over revs. Because I could let it go and it would over rev, and theoretically the idle air motor should shut. And if I stalled it, it should have gone to open.
Right.
But it's not pulling the code. This brings the point, folks, that computers are literate. They only tell you what they're told.
Right.
And honestly, they're idiots.
It's not another stripped motor, was it?
Yeah, this is the one we talked about where the idle air motor, the drive screw that moved the little piston that opens and closes the airflow, was stripped out. Oh, the motor was happily turning and reporting back to the computer. You want 74 steps? I'm on 75 steps. I'll back off one. But the piston was not moving. Replace the idle air motor. Now it doesn't stall, but it still won't run for crap above 200 RPM, 2000 RPM. So you're sitting here going, okay, we went back through the fuel system again.
Right.
From tank, flushed lines, flushed the rails, pulled out the new injectors, cleaned them again, made sure they were flowing and firing, and put it all back together. Still wasn't fixed. And this is just an example of what you're going through. And, I'm feeling for the owner of this thing. Like, look, we put injectors in. Did we have to? That one, I go, no, but they were done before I got there. Right. We had to put a fuel pump in. We could not have proceeded with any further testing with a fuel delivery system that couldn't match RPM.
Right.
We had to check the ignition. That, unfortunately, I was there, and there was nothing breaking down, so no parts were left, were bought for that case other than the time.
Right.
Idle air motor. Well, that was part of the problem. It wasn't the problem, but you can't not fix that because it's going to stall, and we just kept going. We're down to the point now, and Mark's just like, later. It can sit another week or two. We've got to at least loosen the exhaust, because the next thing that causes that problem is possible broken, failed, or plugged cat or muffler.
Right.
If you have back pressure, if it's got some passage, the engine will idle, but as you rev up and you get too much back pressure, you start to stall out the engine. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, that doesn't cost anything, again, but a little bit of labor to loosen 4 Y-pipe bolts and some earplugs, because it's going to get really loud.
Yeah.
And if it revs, great. Then we can actually drop the exhaust system. It's only 2 sections, and figure out where it's plugged, or maybe just give him a new one. It is 167,000 miles on this thing, and it's still got the factory exhaust. But what if it doesn't? I can't trust the computer.
Oh, weren't you saying like the exhaust is super hot?
Yep, the exhaust is hot. All right, which can go both ways. People are saying, oh, that could be the plug converter. Well, yeah, okay. I kind of agree, and I kind of don't. What it acts like to me is it may have excessive what's called flame front on the exhaust stroke, which could be a valve timing issue. But we shouldn't really spend the money to pull the front timing cover off and the harmonic balancer, because on an engine that's 167,000 miles, the harmonic balancer may not come off in one piece.
It's going to come off like mummy dust.
Yeah, it's going to come off in 2 pieces. The outer ring and the rubber that is the balance element will die.
Yeah. And
of course, we got to pull a radiator. It's the original radiator. What do you think is going to happen to the hoses in the radiator when we pull that out?
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like, and Mark's going, I'm not going in the engine. That's not the level of my shop. He said that exceeds the capabilities of my shop. I can't do that, even if it fixed it, because I couldn't warranty it if something happened.
Right.
So we're down to hanging the exhaust down. He says, I can handle that. We can take those bolts off. And if it fixes it, great. But my point to this little diatribe is sometimes the world conspires that even though you're following every step and doing your best not to fire the parts cannon, sometimes in an older vehicle, you have no choice but to fire the parts cannon. And your best goal here is to put yourself together a test plan. And I always hear, well, how do I do that? I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like the old man again. The service manual will tell you. It will give you a list of plausible, probable problems in those sections about, going down here and your problem solving.
Right.
And that's what I did. I went through and said, okay, what's the most likely failure? would have been a plugged injector. At that kind of mileage, absolutely.
Right.
And given what we saw in the tank, I would have believed that in a heartbeat. But that's not the case in this time. The other one would be a coil breakdown. Although I didn't believe it for one reason. On the later TJs, we have the coil bar, not a single coil. If you have a coil bar dying, it will kill 2 cylinders. It really can't kill one. Right. I shouldn't say that. There's 1 or 2 really rare scenarios, like the internal lead has broken inside the coil and the spring to the spark plugs. And yes, I did pull it off and check each one of the bloody springs to make sure, because I have had people leave the spring out. But typically, if a coil pack dies in a later TJ, since every coil pack fires 2 cylinders with what they call a wasted spark, it should have had 2 errors.
Quick question.
Yep.
Did you check the spark plugs themselves?
They were replaced brand new.
Okay.
And rotated to make sure that the problem didn't move around. So absolutely. Gotcha. And a compression check was done to make sure we didn't have stuck valves or blown rings. And it was normal. It was like 120 to 140, Okay. Yes, we had the valve cover off to go deeper than that. And not
checking for a broken spring.
Checking for broken springs, rocker arms cracked, bent push rods, valves not closing or seating. There was nothing abnormal under there. It's just one of those that this one's really pushing the dig. And we are just about, with the exhaust check, we are at the end. And of course, some of our friends are like, I'll just take a hacksaw and cut the exhaust off. You can weld it back up afterwards. And Mark's looking at me and I said, no, we take 4 bolts off. And if for some reason the little speed nuts break, we can buy new speed nuts for,
they're cheap.
For cheap. They're about $1.25 a piece and we only need 4 of them. He goes, oh, okay. Yeah. So, you look at these, but this is the diagnostics, let's call it fishbone, as they call it, of what all can trigger this, because the next thing is timing chain, and 167,000 miles in the timing chain, particularly if it's one of the ones with the fiber gears, what I'm talking about, Scott?
Yep.
The plastic cam gear, it could have jumped a tooth.
Right.
And there's some symptoms and some things that apparently another shop did, which was resyncing the cam position sensor to the crank position sensor. And I was like, whoa. Mark, what? He said, well, yeah, they resynced it. Go look at it. I can see the marks where it resynced from. You should never have to resync those unless you're replacing one of the components.
Right.
He didn't replace the components. He just resynced it. Why would it be off sync? Okay. That's not a smoking gun, but that is at least a yellow flag. Maybe not a red flag, but it's a yellow flag.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry about that, folks. This has been one of those things that it's taken several months in bits and pieces, mostly because the client, I met with him on behalf of Mark and we talked about it. He loves his Jeep. It's clean, rust-free, a little wear, but not bad. I mean, it really is one of those that, it's worst case, throw a new motor in it, but that seems a little overkill at this point. Yeah. I would normally have checked the exhaust. If it's not plugged, I'd move on to pulling the timing cover and getting the client's approval to buy a new harmonic dampener to see if we can figure out why. Other than that, we're really...
You're at the end of the exterior exploratory surgery phase.
Right, exactly. In fact, I would call the timing chain...
the start of the
outpatient internal inspections.
Yeah.
And at that point, you ask yourself, how much do you want to spend diagnosing? Or do you want to get either a junkyard engine or just go ahead and get a reman and drop in a reman long block?
Because at 160.
Yep.
I even have 160 on mine, and I know it's not as crisp.
Yeah. So this is kind of the whole, we talk about, think it through, plan, execute. Flowchart kind of a thing. And this one is going through it, and this one is pushing us to the absolute limit. We are either the 4th or 5th shop to look at this. And no, I'm not Mark's employee. I'm his friend, and I'm trying to help him out here. And we have been finding and in if you go check Jeep Lab on YouTube, you can see the video where we show you the actual gauge as it revs, and you can hear the engine starting to break up and die and the fuel pressure going. And I bet the whole world, like we did, we're like, aha. And then we put a new pump in.
Oh, not.
Oh, no. Aha. Yeah, no. It's, oh, no. You rev it up and it still broke up, but the pressure gauge never varied. But then it was like you have that thought going, well, what I found in there, the fuel sock was gone. And boy, did it look like a mud mat. It really didn't look like a filter. And there is no other fuel filter in a TJ line, just the sock. The new one had a new sock. There was no sludge in the bottom of the tank anymore. There was some orange discoloration because somebody had put some additives in there that had discolored, but nothing was loose. You know, it was all tight. I couldn't even scrape it off the tank. But you got that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and blow the lines out again, and then take the rail off again and pull every injector again.
Did you add fresh gas this time? Maybe.
Yes, we added fresh gas because water and the gas will do it. We actually ran probably a half a gallon into a stainless steel bowl that was dry and set it there for an hour. No sign of water.
Gotcha.
So, boys and girls, this one is really straining the noggin. It's sad. You get to a point where you're going, I hope the exhaust is plugged.
Yeah.
For the owner's sake. And, you know, there are several reports of older units, the elements in the cats breaking up and blocking off the exhaust. But there's also reports of jumped gear timing chains.
Yeah.
And particularly with the fiber gears, and they have these plastic chain guides on either side coming off the crank up to the cam. And if they break, it gets really sloppy and bouncy and, you know.
Easily tooth jumpy.
Yeah. So at this point, I have to wait for Mark to decide if he wants to pursue it further or call the guy with heart in hand and say, look, we're
at the end of our expertise.
He's at the end of the expertise because one of the things Mark will not do, he is probably one of the most honest mechanics out there that I know of. He will look you in the eye and go, that's outside of my skill level, my comfort zone, you know, whatever term you want to use. And he'll give you a recommendation, but he won't push it for what he's not good at because he doesn't want to be that mechanic.
Yeah.
And so hats off to him for having the guts to do that.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to his own stuff, he'll take chances, but that's his own stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he learns on his rigs.
Yeah. That's what I meant to say. That's a better way to say it.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting session, and it's not over, and I will be reporting it. Mm-hmm. See Scott's comment about Facebook. If you follow Facebook, you can kind of touch base. Let's move on to the other one. It's a little more positive.
Yes.
And that is, you guys that have been following on Facebook have seen the fact that I am back on the $1,500 TJ again.
The rusty green.
I never Mel calls it the baby TJ because it's sitting next to the YJ that we built with a digital dash that's up on 35s, and the little TJ is on a 4-post lift, and it's still shorter than the YJ. What? Scott's over here having
the green dinghy.
Oh, God. But anyway.
Well, we lost that friendship.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. But
sorry, Shane. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, you can throw rocks at Scott.
Ow.
But we moved on, and I posted a couple of pictures of the last few days. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Shane managed to blow his back out pretty bad. Yeah. He's back on both feet, moving a little slower and well lubricated.
I will say this, though. That was a very complicated full contact Connect 4 move he made, but he won the match. Sorry, I'm
Shane, you
kidding.
Can throw more rocks, but just don't make them too heavy. I don't want to get your back again.
Full contact trouble in that Pop-O-Matic bubble.
Okay. That was more like what I did to myself when I blew my back out just reaching in the drawer to pick out a pair of blue jeans. I twisted the wrong way. It's hell when you get up there and you're my age. But anyway.
I'm within kicking distance. I'm not saying it.
Yeah, please don't. So anyway, now that he was back and we were able to get started again, we He and some of his shop guys had done a little small patch in the front side. I had taken care of the driver's side floor. I had taken care of another smaller section in the back side of the driver's in the rear seat area, and saving the mother of all floor pan replacements for the passenger side rear. And over the week, I have been in there and we did the vivisection, and I cut a little bit and poked around and cut a little more, poked around. Cut a lot more, poked around, cut even
glass
more.
bottom boat by the time you're done.
Oh yeah, the picture shows that you're looking down on the top side of the heat shield for the muffler, and the top side of the suspension and frame rails, and all of the gas lines and brake lines and all that running down the frame rail. And
That's concerning.
Then I had to cut a little bit more.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had to cut a little bit more that wasn't in the replacement floor pan. But we'll get to that in a minute. But he had bought a very nice quality, and I'm sorry, folks, the sticker was gone when I got it. I don't know which one he bought, but it was a full 18 gauge floor pan stamping that I was really impressed at how accurate it was. And then we had to do maybe a little more than a little lot cutting of that sheet, because I didn't want to take out the seat rail that goes across the side. It was in good shape.
Right.
And there's no sense destroying that structural element for cosmetics of a seat pan. So and that's typical when you buy these stampings, you can cut them down to what you need to fit. And then with a combination of seam welding, plug welding, and then tack welding, we reinstalled the entire new pan, which was funny. It took a day plus to dissect and then do the buried repairs that had to be done. There was some undersheet metal that was, the brace under the seat rail and that holds up the shifter. I had to have sections cut out and replaced and remade, and some of the other pieces in the areas, little lookouts and bracketing. And then the floor pan went in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because it was just fit it. Rosette welds all over the place like the factory used. Put it all back together. Today we went over and finished the grinding. Shane did that. He got out there with his little air grinder and finished polishing it all down to where it's nice and clean. And then we primed it, seam sealed it, did a second layer of seam sealing on some of the areas because the seam seal flows a little bit and it'll tend to settle and open up some voids.
Yeah.
Put a second one on, and then his job, he's going to start probably tomorrow morning painting out, because all the way back to the tailgate with one spot up on the driver's rear inner fender, where your roll bar mounted. When you took the roll bar off, you had a hole under there.
Yeah.
So we're going to tear that apart later this next week and put it back together. But he can start cleaning up. He's going to paint the floor. He'll go in and wire brush any of the surface rust spots, spot prime them. He's going to paint them probably with a Rust-Oleum gloss black, because he's going with a whole black interior, and he's going with a bed rug eventually. And so he wants to have the black where the bed rug doesn't cover, it doesn't peek out with the green. He wants it to be a gloss black.
Nice.
But it's amazing. You get in that thing now, and he didn't even realize, when you have a lot of your floor pan gone, when you close the doors, it kind of has a rattly, hollow sound, and now it has a very satisfying thunk and latches. So that's been a lot of fun helping Shane doing a little bit of body redirection. Mm-hmm. Yes, we will have to seam seal the underside when this is all done, but we want to get the body tub done for a very specific reason. I thought I'd share that here.
Yeah.
He has one bad section of frame in this $1,500 Jeep, and it is what's called the lower haunch, or the spot where the frame rail is coming back horizontal from the transmission and under the doors, and it makes that curve sweeping up so it meets the spring pockets on the rear suspension. And it's also got the brackets on the sides and center where the lower and upper control arms on the driver's side bolt in. Mm-hmm. And most of it's not there.
Yeah. It's a consecrated frame.
Yes, it is. Holier than thou.
Yes.
And that's partially due to the fact we cleaned up a lot of it and got all the chunk rust out, which is not structural, by the way, that big flaky sheets of rust that used to be steel. And we have a replacement piece. Oh, by the way, those two floor pans, I think, were less than $100 for both of them.
Nice.
And then this frame haunch was, I think he said $85, and it's a beast, and it's beautiful, and it's got all the frame mounts for the suspension. And what we're doing here, the reason we're doing all the body is that right now the body is holding that frame in alignment because it's bolted in. Whereas if I had cut away that frame with most of that hole across, particularly the back, I wasn't as worried about the driver pan, but those rear seat holes were large enough that then I didn't have the frame or the body stiffness.
Yeah.
And so I want the body there to act as a stiffener to hold the frame pieces in alignment, because I'm going to cut everything but the top of that thing and maybe an inch, if I have an inch of the sidewall that's left, off, and the brackets off. We got a plasma cutter, and then clean up the ragged edges. And then we've got to fit this new corner bracket. We're even going to go so far as to chalk the rear wheel with a park and brake and with things so that it can't move. And this will make sense in a minute. I'm going to take, being in a drive shaft shop means that the scrap trailer's full of structural tubing.
Yeah.
DOM tubing. You don't make drive shafts out of welded seam tubing.
Yeah.
They tend to come apart. So lots of them, cut-offs, damaged ones that were replaced, and they just scrap the rest. And I just need a couple of pieces that I can tack weld to the frame where it's good, in front of the rear wheel and behind the rear wheel. Again, just sitting on the lift that we're using, and that holds that frame. It cannot sag then in the middle from the rear weight.
Right.
And the wheel has to be kept perfect, because we're going to have to actually disconnect the upper and lower control arms on the driver's side. But if I keep that wheel, that axle, right where it is, drop it, cut everything out, clean it up, fit that bracket in place, clamp it loosely, and then reconnect the arms. That will put that frame bracket exactly where Chrysler intended it to be.
Nice.
Because the axle hasn't moved, and the arms will be the exact same length. So I can use that as my alignment, get it all centered in there, burn some really heavy tacks at both ends, both inside and outside, and then go ahead and
lay some dimes
down, or find somebody who can lay some dimes. Mine are more like bird burgers, but we can, what do they say? A grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't.
Yeah.
I know I can get good penetration, and I've cut mine through and checked them, and I get a good weld penetration. I just haven't got the pattern down good yet.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. They're not bad. But we will then burn the thing in with the wheel off and that kind of stuff. But at that point, I'm locked in, and I can burn the thing in. We'll paint it, reconnect the arms, and then Shane's up to reinstall the interior, put the Dynamat in, put the bed rug in, put the seats back in, put the roll cage back on, Oh, you know what? And I just realized what I forgot to tell you is on that last piece of putting that rear floor pan in, where the rear fender came down.
Oh, yeah.
They normally fold in and back, and they're under the trim, the inner well line.
Inner wheel well?
Wheel well liner. Boy, yes. Scott must be infectious. I'm getting my merds wixed.
Wheel well liner?
Yes.
Wheel well liner?
But that was gone.
Yeah.
But the line coming down, the sheet metal coming down was fine. So I ended up creating a new flange and spot welding it to both. But then the one that really bothered me was the bottom of the B pillar, where your roll bar bolts to, including, now the ones over on the floor were fine, and I cleaned them up and welded up inside them, and then put the new floor pan on, and it's all in great shape. But that B pillar one, you saw daylight through that at the bottom. And so I decided to go a little old school, heavy duty overkill. And I got myself some 16 gauge structural plate and built myself an angle with notches for the bolts and cleaned everything up, and then welded the ever-loving snot out of that between the floor and the floor brace that goes underneath, and then the B pillar, which is probably one of the reasons the passenger now goes thunk rather than rattle.
Yeah.
So, and yes, before you say it, when the roll cage goes in, it's going to have to squeeze a 16th inch or so tighter than it did. But I have a feeling that the Jeep's probably spread enough due to rust losses that it should go in fine. But these are just some of the things that if you're taking on these kinds of problems, you'll run into these chains of event, whether it's the engine. Okay, it's not running right. I've got to do air, fire, fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's fuel, you got to check from the gas cap to the injector nozzle.
Yeah.
Is it getting there and in the right amounts? Fire. Am I getting spark? Usually that's pretty all you got to do, but you do need to look at to make sure that the spark's actually happening at the tip of the spark plug, not somewhere else in a wire. Air, as silly as it sounds, take the air cleaner out, take the pipe off, make sure it's not full of squirrel.
Yeah.
You laugh.
No,
but,
I know.
You know, can you open the throttle body? Look, do I have obstructions?
Yeah.
We have opened up old cars. I'm not going to say Jeeps at this point, but they've been like the old coffee, chock full of nuts.
Yeah, that's a
Squirrels and chipmunks will hide them in these things.
Yeah. And
you know, it's funny. You can pass a little bit of air through a bunch of acorns, but you can't really do full throttle.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that kind of make the difference between someone who is a mechanic and somebody who's a parts changer.
That's one of the things you said at the event, is that sometimes if you really want to do this and take on this moniker of being a technician, you have to understand how the machine works, all of its inner working parts,
interrelationships.
Yes.
Because you will inevitably run into situations where, I'm sorry, the computer's lying to you.
Yes. And like you said, computers are literate. They only do what they're told.
Yep. And they can only report what they're told.
Yeah.
If your sensor is saying it's, 20 degrees, but it's really operating at 40, well, the computer's going to report I'm at 20.
Well, and if your car does become self-aware, it's time for a priest.
Okay. Define self-aware.
Carrie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things that's interesting. And for me, I hope this isn't boring to you guys listening out there, because this is the kind of stuff when I do those posts, what's he up to? Well, that's me telling you that,
this is what I'm up to.
This is not just about the show. This is what I really do in my retirement, is I run around to different folks that need help in my area, and I try to see if I can lead them down to the solution. I don't often do it for them. I'll do a lot of work, but I want the folks to learn, and for example, Shane and Mark both are very much in the, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Can I try that? Let me see how it works. And they're fantastic people to work with. Both of them are just absolutely great to work with. So it's quite a bit of fun. Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to jump over to, and this isn't technically garage subject, but Don Cox was at Mark's little thing, and we had a nice long chat. And we are going to get Don Cox. He is our local Tread Lightly rep for the area. We are going to get him on the show as soon as we can get all our schedules lined up. And it's amazing that this is a voluntary position. He's not paid for it. He takes it on himself, and he coordinates with authorities and Jeepers, and not just Jeepers, anybody doing off-road, and he tries to explain the full ramifications of Tread Lightly, and quite frankly, why you should do it, because what you lose if you don't.
Yeah.
And
we actually lost a few spots here recently.
We did, because somebody knew, I've always done it out here, I'm just going to do it. And somebody said, no, that was my land, and it was being used on good graces, and you just did it for everybody. A
little fun spot, and it's now that Trail 14 is closed.
Yep.
And I think, another one of the trails closed. They bulldozed and flattened Trail 14.
Yeah. And then Trail 13 is still open, but that's been dressed.
Yeah.
So, if you can't follow the rules, go somewhere else. Go to a paid park. Well, they're going to make you follow rules too, but at least their rules usually include an area that you can go out and kind of be crazy.
Yeah.
Folks, this isn't the Midwest. We're down here in Florida.
Yeah.
There's a very, very limited amount of open public land that is allowing off-road vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. I know you want to go out and play. I enjoy big, high horsepower rigs as much as anybody, but do them on the paid areas that they paid to maintain. Out in the public lands, well, when you leave, the hunters want to go in there. The bicyclists want to go through there. The hikers go through there. The horse riders go through there. And I have actually heard Jeepers go, F them. I'm going to do what I want. And I'm going, oh boy. Well,
That's not good.
That's not good. I get it. You want to do it. We've got parks to let you do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get off my soapbox, but like Scott said, we got the notice that we lost a few more of our few trails down here.
Yeah. And I do want to cover up something really quickly. And,
Yep. Sorry, I got us off track, folks.
No, it's okay. One of the other things, when this show comes out on the 15th, will be the day me and a bunch of other Jeepers are going, and I don't know if I'd talked to Kevin about this, about the Garrett's Ride to Valhalla.
Yeah.
In the Brooksville Cemetery. We lost a show. For those of you who don't know, Garrett was actually at the very beginning. He was part of Nomad Jeepers, and they were one of the first groups that we interviewed, and they were there, and unfortunately, he has recently passed. So we're doing something nice for him. I've talked to Tanya, his wife. So if you got a couple extra minutes, just check out the hashtag Garrett Strong, and you'll see all the stories. But that's pretty much with that. So again, take the time, be good to each other, and again, so just take a moment out and just think about somebody other than yourself for a little bit.
Yep. And with that, we'll remind you that, as he said, you can email us, you can Facebook us, message it. We'd love to know what you'd like to hear about. If it's within our ability to dig it up, learn it, teach it, we'll gladly bring it to the show.
Absolutely.
If you got questions for me on a technical side, I'll do what I can. I can't answer them all, and I've been stymied already with one who has a bolt problem that I can't seem to find another JK with that same bolt pattern issue, but we're still looking. Haven't forgot you, Robert. And
and I have sent out a few stickers already. If you talked about and read your email on the show, we sent a couple stickers out. One person even mentioned, I can't remember which way it was on.
I'm sorry, it was not Robert. It was Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. Again, George also messaged us and about one person's
Jeep collection
they had. So when you guys email us some questions and we use them on the show, again, I've sent out stickers. It's something to say thank you for spending time to take time out of your busy day to message us.
Yep, we do appreciate it. And now we got all kinds. I was just sitting here noticing that somebody noticed my little post from the Red Line Update series that I watch. I find it fascinating. So, and if you guys have Jeep-related YouTubes you watch,
share it to the page.
Share it to the page. You're welcome to. We're having a little more traffic every time I check it. In fact, the Facebook page is chiming almost constantly during the day now. So it's really nice to see what other Jeepers around the country and even a little bit around the world, and see what you got in common with them. So with that,
I think it's time we lock the hubs, put the Jeep in 4-low, and hit the trail.
Awesome.
And remember, take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trails, because we want to keep it open for our children and our children's children.
And be sure to check in for our next podcast of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott in 2 weeks.
Yep, show 136 on April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Oh, joy.
Well, with that note, you all have fun. I'm going to go drive an hour home and then go to sleep. So with that, bye.
Bye now.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precautions, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.